I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid. Genesis. You don't need a course in psychology to understand men. Understand that verse, let its implications sink in, and the men around you will suddenly come into focus. We are hiding, every last one of us, well aware that we are not what we were meant to be, desperately afraid of exposure, terrified of being seen for what we are and what we are not. We hide in our office, at the gym, behind the newspaper, and mostly behind our personality. Most of what you encounter when you meet a man is a facade, an elaborate fig leaf, a brilliant disguise. This is a passage which I'm reading in this book called Wild at Heart, and this book goes over the deepest fear that we feel as men, and I think it's really important to address. And as men, we inherently know exactly what we were meant to do, like what we were born for, and it's sort of evident to see when we reflect upon what we as men are naturally drawn towards, what we look up to. Throughout the ages, people have always looked up to the heroes in mythologies, and in this day and age, we look up to the heroes in, either sporting icons or heroes which are seen in fictional stories like movies and plays. And if we were to try to boil it down and to try to understand why we look up to these heroes, these mythologies, these sporting icons, fundamentally it goes down to their character, the values that they hold for themselves, their virtues that they hold. And these are typically virtues of courage and strength and persistence. And I believe that when we see this in the heroes in the mythologies, it's sort of a mirror, a reflection, a remembrance of what we have within ourselves. I believe that that's the reason why we are so drawn to it, because I believe to our soul it's a reminder of the true masculine essence which we have within ourselves. It's only through these mythologies and our characters in the external world through which we are able to understand and grasp what we hold within ourselves. And why, if we have these role models which we look up to, which exhibit all these characteristics which we want to embody within ourselves, why do we run away from being the hero of our own story? And I do want to say that this is part of the story, the hero that is doubting that he is the hero. Like Frodo from Lord of the Rings, he didn't want to bear the responsibility of destroying the ring. Or for instance in Avatar The Last Airbender, when he found out that he was the Avatar. And for Aang, for him to find out that he's the only person on the planet who can master all 4 elements in one go and be the most powerful, it scared him. He ran away. He ran away from that responsibility. And I think that for us as well, for us as men, we are afraid. As Marianne Williams says in her quote, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. And for us as men, I think it's important for us to understand this tendency to run away from our masculine nature, to run away from what we are destined to become, to bear the responsibility, to be the man that, your girlfriend or your wife or your kids or your future kids need. Wes Watson says, be the man you admire, then gift him to the world. I believe that self-sacrifice and becoming the man that the highest possible version of you and gifting that to the world, I feel like that's our responsibility as men. And it's so easy to be like Aang and to see that responsibility and run away from it, because it is a big task to bear the cross and bear the responsibility of living up to your potential. But I believe that man needs meaning, man needs a purpose, and I feel like this is the highest purpose that we can aim for as men. And also, I wouldn't say that I'm a really religious person, I don't go to church, but if I were to think of Christ as a mythological figure, I think the reason why Christianity has lasted so long is because of the archetype or the mythology of Christ. The man who bears his cross willingly, who self-sacrifices and does it for the highest possible good. He doesn't do it for himself, he does it for the world, for the highest possible good. He bears his cross and he suffers, and he doesn't run away from that responsibility. And I believe that later on in the show, Aang does take that responsibility. He has to bear the responsibility of being the Avatar for the world around him. And similarly, if we apply this to our own lives, we have the responsibility, we have to bear this cross, and it is pretty heavy, it is a heavy burden to bear. But I think paradoxically for men, I believe that's the antidote to our suffering. And I know from a lot of men these days, mental health has gone down, more men are feeling more depressed and anxious than ever. And I think the antidote to that, paradoxically, is to bear the cross of responsibility and to suffer. And this is what Jordan Peterson has been trying to tell young men. And in his comments section, you see men saying that, Jordan Peterson, I've changed my life because of you, because I've taken up more responsibility. And I think that's just the answer. If you've read Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, he who has a why can bear almost any how. And men need that. And we need this meaning, we need this purpose. But behind this answer of responsibility and purpose is the question which haunts every man. And I'm going to bring this book up again. Now, John Eldredge writes, This is every man's deepest fear, to be exposed, to be found out, to be discovered as an imposter and not really a man. If there's one thing that a man does know, he knows he's made to come through. Yet he wonders, can I? Will I? When the going gets rough, when it really matters, will I pull it off? And that's definitely something we feel as men. We have the responsibility to be the highest version of ourselves, to be strong and be courageous for the people around us. But when times get tough, do we have it to pull through? And that's a difficult question which haunts every man. And now I want to ask, will this question ever go away? You know, if I make $1 million and I'm able to provide for my family, will this question go away? And I'm going to let you answer that question for yourself. And I want to bring up a quote by Henry David Thoreau, which goes, "The mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation." Thinking about this question, will this question that haunts every man ever go away? I start to think of David Goggins. So for those who don't know, he's a Navy SEAL, and after serving as a SEAL, and I think he was an Army Ranger for some point as well, after living his dream as being a SEAL, it wasn't enough for him. He started to go and move on to other endeavors which stretched him. So he ran 100 miles. I think he's doing the Moab 240, which is like 10 marathons, and doing the pull-up world record, and he's still pushing himself continuously to this day, even after reaching his dream of being a Navy SEAL. It was as if it was insignificant to him, and I believe that using David Goggins as an example, I'm just forced to come to the conclusion that this question is just going to haunt us every single day of our lives. And I know that's a bit of a scary thing to think about, but I think it's just part of the human experience. You know, as William Shakespeare says, there's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. I think there's a beauty to the struggle. It's a beautiful thing, you know, to constantly grow and evolve, to become more conscious and grow towards your higher self. As Friedrich Nietzsche writes, there are no beautiful surfaces without terrible depths. And now moving on to the solution, I want to bring up a quote by Albert Einstein, which goes, "Only a life lived for others is a life worthwhile." And this is going back to what I said of the archetype of Christ, you know, or the story of Aang, the last airbender, to bear your cross willingly. And it's not for you, it's for the world. You know, as Wes Watson says, become the man you admire, then gift him to the world. And I think without that, without meaning, then I'll just fall into nihilism, and there'll be really no reason why I should try at all. So I need to give myself this meaning and strive for it, because what else am I going to do, you know? What else am I going to do? Play video games, and that's not going to benefit anyone. To end this, I want to bring up a quote from Marianne Williams, which goes, "We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others." And so, thanks for watching, and for the men out there watching this video, I just want to say, stay hard, stay strong, wake up early, go to the gym, read your books, meditate, journal, and keep striving to be the strongest version of yourself, you know. Anyway, yeah, thanks for watching, and see you in the next video. Peace.